about long distance relationships.
Ooh,
Let's talk about it.
yeah.
That is another question from a friend.
Long distance relationships from the friend. So she's in a long distance relationship?
Yeah.
I was in a long distance relationship. I was in a long distance relationship for about a year. Um, One of the worst experiences of my life. Jealousy, imagination is horrible in a long distance relationship. It's a fucking nightmare. Um, I wouldn't do it again. But if you're in it, I can definitely think of things that I would have done differently. Um, like scheduled calling. Scheduled calling. Nowadays you have Skype and you know you can have videos back and forth. I would do something promiscuous or sexual on that, right? Like keep that connection. I know you can't touch each other, but keep that connection in some way, shape, or form. Um, yeah. Write each other letters. That's a really, really cool one that people never think about. Write each other letters. That means that you're writing a letter when you're not on the phone or anything like that, and you're taking the time out, and then they do the same thing back. Have a separate conversation than you do normally when you're on Skype or you're talking on the phone. Like have another conversation about other things that you're only doing when you're writing letters. It's a really kind of like romantic way to keep connected as well. That's really cool. Always make sure that you schedule a way to see each other if you can once every like 3 months, 3 or 4 months. If you can see each other, do that. If he's in the military or you know you're working somewhere else and you can't get back, definitely have your schedule and make sure that you talk to each other on a specific time all the time. Never miss it. Have like date nights. You know, eat together while you're on the phone. You know, one night a week or something like that. Make it as intimate as possible, as much as you can. So you're obviously not touching each other, but you can be close to each other, and you're just trying to. And you might actually learn a whole bunch more about each other, which would be really cool too. These are all things that I didn't do. Mostly what happened with me is we would pick up the phone and we would talk to each other, and she'd be like, oh, I saw so-and-so today. And I was like, is that a fucking guy? And she'd be like, yes. And I'd be like, is he fucking you? And then she'd be like, no. And then we'd go in an argument for 30 minutes or an hour or 3 hours, whatever it was. And then we would hang up and talk 2 days later or the next day, and right back to the same argument again. Basically, you're just looking for shit that's negative. That's super, super unhealthy. But there's this thing that happens where you can't leave. You know, you're in this place where it's like, if I say I don't want to talk anymore or I want to take a break, then she'll just leave me because I can't go see her. You don't have that option. So long distance relationships are super, super, super difficult. But I just laid out some really cool ways to keep connected with them, and some things to look out for if they start to happen, which is the negative stuff. So, yeah, I wouldn't say not do it, but have a plan. Have a plan on that one.
What about the things you should not do in long-term relationships? Long distance.
In long distance, things you shouldn't do. Pick fights. Don't pick fights. Your whole job is to stay mature and calm. Don't react. If you're mad at him or if I was mad at her, the one thing I wish I would have done was take a couple hours before I messaged or I talked, because the time period between you being able to solve a fight and fix a fight versus when you're next to each other is way longer. So the stress happens a lot longer. Don't pick fights. Don't pick fights. And like I said before, like stay connected on that schedule. Don't randomly, you can randomly call them, but don't get upset if they don't pick up. Have your schedule. Have your fucking schedule. And then don't tell them about fucking some guy that you met. That's really important. I hated hearing that shit. Where it's like, oh, I went out and we had some drinks, me and the girls, and then, there was some people there, and I met this really, really fun person, and, like this whole group of guys came over and we were talking to them. They work at wherever, and I had this really good conversation with this guy. Your mind's gonna go crazy hearing that, because you being, 1,000 miles away or 10,000 miles away, you're gonna think of the worst possible scenario. And yeah, that's insecurity, but in the same sense, you got to protect your partner from that kind of shit. And it's not lying, it's just not telling certain things that don't need to be brought up. Things that invoke imagination. Or like, yeah, I'm going to go out with my, this new guy that I met who's a friend. Oh my God, that drove me fucking nuts when I heard that shit. And chances are she was probably cheating on me. But even if she wasn't and I was hearing that, the first thing I thought was she's cheating on me. So yeah, like those are really, oh my God, it's bringing up all this old fucking feelings from that time. I didn't like it. I did not like that stuff. Not calling back, taking a really long time to hit back from a message. To message him back after he said something that was really important to him. Because you're not quite in tune with what is important to him anymore. Because we hadn't been talking about those things, we were just strictly arguing. So you gotta be in tune with that person and know what's important to them. Because if they message you and say, hey, I saw my cousin today and it's been kind of a tough day. And then you don't message back for 6 hours, they're going, well, you don't give a fuck about me, and even if you do, but like when you're long distance, it's super important just to fucking hit them back with some message like, hey, I'm a little busy right now, let me call you back, or something like that. But the scheduled calling, and that's when you're not doing that, but the scheduled calling, that's super important. The scheduled date night, the writing letters, fucking beautiful. But yeah, red flags in long distance relationships. There's so many. If you're married and you're in a long distance relationship, the things that I said, you have to do. You just have to. If you're not married and you're in a long distance relationship, those are also things that I feel like you have to do. But if you don't do them, you can still kind of get through it. It just depends on the amount of time that you're apart. Like if he went to the fucking moon and he's in, or goes to Mars for 3 years, that's how long are you willing to wait? How long are you willing to, is there a time when he's gonna come back? Because so many imaginary questions come up in your head. They're gonna happen. It's mind-blowing how much anxiety comes from long distance relationships. And I can't even think of all of the things that can happen to make you have anxiety during that period of time, because there's so fucking many of them. It's just like one little word here or there and all of a sudden, oh, we're broken up, and all she said was, I'm busy right now. And he's like, too busy for me. Oh my God, she's with another guy and she's having sex. And oh my God, and then what if she gets pregnant? And then, oh my God, then she still wants to be with me. And then, oh my God, now I have to raise this kid that's not mine. And then, like that's what happens. So long as this is, they're tough. There's a lot of red flags, but there are specific ways that you can do it to make it easier.